Yay! Hey, aloha, love tribe. Happy we got this Wednesday. I have a very special guest with me here on the Bitcoin Peace and Music podcast. My friend Trinity, who is a former law lady. Now she is going to be a Bitcoin trucker and she is going to go see the country with her dream. And so, welcome, Trinity. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to meet the Love Tribe. Meet more of them.
You are the love tribe.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, right on. So let's hear about, I was listening to some of your comments. I don't know if it was on Cafe Bitcoin or if it was a different spaces, but you were talking about being a former you were in the law enforcement previously, and you were kind of talking about the corruption and the BS going on. And then so I started listening to you and following you, and I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this woman. And then we met again on another spaces, and I was like, come be on the podcast. And you said you had gotten your license, and you're going to get to go see the world. So I really want to share and celebrate your new journey of really doing journeying. Yeah. So tell everybody what's up. Like, who are you and how did you get here? Let's hear your story.
Yes. So, hello, everyone. I'm Trinity, and we definitely met at the Toxic Happy Hour spaces. And that is like my home. I feel welcome there. And Pubby and Anders, they let everyone up. It doesn't matter your, resume. And so I love that equal stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a past life is what I like to say
Yeah.
because I left law enforcement. So I was a police officer from 2008 to 2016.
Mm.
And, growing up and when I was a kid, if you would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, I want to be a police officer. And everyone around me was like, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And so when I turned 18, I got like a job as like a clerk. And, I just watched and I went on ride alongs and it
Oh,
just
wow.
seemed like super exciting. And like I applied and I got rejected. And then I applied to like the Alaskan police force
Hmm.
and like went to Vegas for an interview. And I didn't make it there, but like somebody was like, you really want to do this, don't you? I was like, yeah, I think I'd be good. And so they put in a word for me. And then I got another chance to apply. And yeah, the first time I went to the academy, I like failed miserably. I failed after 8 weeks. And then the second time I went, like a few years later, I graduated third. And I really thought I was going to be helping people. And I, believed in, the law and I believed in right and wrong and just the classic, uh, you know, I lived in Missouri, so Bible Belt, just classic right and wrong. These are the bad guys, these are the good guys.
Hmm.
And as I matured, because I literally grew up there, because I started at 18 and I went from a civilian to an officer. As I grew up and just kind of got more experience, I realized that, there's nuance, there's more to even our concept of right and wrong. And I also came to know the criminal justice system has many, many flaws.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be honest here because I feel like, you enjoy that. It's basically legalized slavery. We judge people who have made mistakes in their lives.
Yeah.
And as a result of that judgment, we feel justified in taking their freedom and, putting them away. And I always say, I don't have necessarily the like we should try this system instead, but it's important to admit what something is. And that's the best way to get out of it. Like that's the best way to change it, to admit what it is. Like these are people that we've deemed deplorable. They violated laws that either have their basis in the Bible, and then we've built on top of that these man-made laws, and then some we evolve out of, like certain drugs used to be illegal and now they're not, and it's just a matter of time,
Yeah.
right? And so When I realized that I could no longer be a good person in a bad system, that as I was participating in a bad system, it doesn't matter the good that I did.
Mm,
And when that came to me, I could just no longer be there. It didn't coincide with my peace of mind and integrity. So I kind of had a crisis, but I had to go because it just didn't feel right anymore, and I didn't want to participate in it. And so, yeah, that's what led me to leave. But I did learn, a lot of discipline, and I did meet some awesome people. And I'm really just not just my coworkers, but just interacting with so many strangers and people in the community. It it just taught me so much about human behavior. It gave me a lot of insight into just the lives of other people, and I developed a lot of compassion. And I
mm,
can literally just talk to anybody.
yeah. And so for you, wow, what a story, and congratulations for listening to your heart, and I can't imagine what it must have felt like to be involved in, the toxic soup of our law enforcement system and our judicial system, and the way that people are absolutely mistreated and mishandled as non-human. I it's gotta be like, that must have really made an impact on your heart and your soul.
It did, and I noticed that. Like I noticed that I started to see the worst in people,
Mm,
and that was like a really big red flag. I said, if I'm starting to dread interactions with people, and I'm definitely assuming the worst, I
mm,
don't want to have that be my permanent lens on life. And basically, in summary, how our criminal justice system is set up is if you have money, you can navigate it. In a
yeah,
But let's say they want to make an example of you, then even money doesn't help. So it's very much political and very much based on, money, and definitely, certain people, the law doesn't apply to them. And so the law that matters to me at this moment are like natural laws, like the law of gravity. Nobody has to enforce gravity. If you fall from a 10-story building, the same thing's going to happen to you as the next person. Doesn't matter if a politician does it or a person with a lot of money. Gravity treats everyone equally. And
yeah.
so
You don't have to believe in it, but you're gonna fall.
and so those are the laws that matter to me, and that's how I don't judge people anymore based on even their past, or I really like to experience people as they are, and I just feel like their energy. So I don't judge people. I don't care your title. None of that matters to me, and it's such a wonderful way to live and really experience people as they are, instead of the various masks that we wear or the labels that we put on ourselves.
Wow, yeah, and whew, that's a you just spoke to a lot of different things, and, I think of, like, Ross Ulbright, and, how the criminal justice system decided, like, we need to make an example of him,
Yes.
and what a travesty of justice for this poor young man, and so many, I mean, literally, obviously, there's millions of people that are being incarcerated, or their lives have been uh, just taken from them because they don't have either the resources or the understanding of how to work this absolutely corrupt system that is based on profit and power over, and it's not about justice. The
No,
system has nothing to do with justice, and so and it has nothing to do with reformation, and it has nothing to do with humanity at all. You know,
that's
we
correct.
we are if oh my gosh, all the mistakes that I've made, I mean, oh my gosh, it's like the grace of the humans in my life that have forgiven me because of my mistakes, and, I'm grateful that I've been able to, uh turn things around, but it's just like there's so many people, if you're just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's really, it's unfair. And, let's get transparent here, Trinity. Okay. So you've got this picture that, like, I don't know if people who aren't on the people who might be listening to the audio when this turns into a podcast, tell everybody about your profile picture.
Yes. So this is Harriet Tubman, and it's a picture of her in her older years, which I really value the ability to reach old age. I think it's a wonderful accomplishment. Well, Harriet Tubman was enslaved, and when she obtained her freedom, she obtained it by building a network called the Underground Railroad of people that were willing to risk their lives and safety for what they believed was the right thing. And she could have enjoyed her freedom and just, hey, sucks for those guys, right?
Mhm.
But she went back and got other people. And her mission was so serious that she carried a gun with her. And if she got you and you were on your way to freedom through her route and you decide to change your mind, you risk the possibility of being shot, because it's such a serious thing to be caught, and you could endanger the whole network. And so I just think that she was like super badass. And I gave her laser eyes and I put a Bitcoin brooch on her because like the part that excites me the most about Bitcoin is the freedom. And Bitcoin, the money, it gives people freedom who take custody of it, because you can transact with anyone else that holds Bitcoin without a third party interfering or censoring it or saying, no, you can't do it, or you don't have to have an ID, or you don't have to show an address, right? You just, if you have access to a wallet, you can transact with another person if you have like cell phone or the internet. And so, but then Bitcoin, the network, right, is where applications can be put on. And it reminds me kind of like the Underground Railroad, in that
Mm.
there's Bitcoin, the network, and then there's the relationships that you form as a result of interacting with this monetary system that's also a network. So now, that I'm here, Valerie, you're a part of my network because we know each other, and Bitcoin is what united us. So it seemed fitting to me. And also, I have her as my profile picture, so just I know like what's important, what the mission is.
I
It's
love
free.
it. And I think about, like, obviously, the we are in a form of financial slavery right now around the world with the way that the system is. And Bitcoin is like this underground but still above ground railroad. And Satoshi is like Harriet Tubman, kind of. If you I don't know, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, Satoshi is so many things, and the fact that Satoshi is not here
Mhm.
is even more wonderful. It's kind of like, how can you be everything by being nothing? And
Yeah.
so we don't have an image for Satoshi Nakamoto per se.
Mhm.
Um, and so the imagination can run wild, but I thank whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is for this innovation using technologies, putting together different technologies to arrive at Bitcoin. And when you think about like I mean, you're a DJ. You take different pieces of music and you put it together and make an experience. Like Satoshi
Mhm.
Nakamoto is like the ultimate freedom fighter, artist, creator,
Yeah.
cypherpunk, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and the presence, like you said, the imagination of all of our minds, of, like, who or how many of who Satoshi really is. It's like the it. he, she, they are the ultimate remixer, you know?
They had to be good. I mean, think about it. Think of what they're up against, the dollar. The
Yeah.
dollar. It's big. And to have the guts to attempt this, and then knowing that your disappearance, it had to be correct, because who would be looking for you? The full force of the United States military, or any other government that felt like their money could be endangered by the system.
Yep.
And so it's something about putting yourself out there. And a lot of people, sometimes people hint at the fact that we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is as like a weakness, like, oh, this person or persons was a coward. No, they had to be good, because you still don't know who they are. That is a level of execution that is like, no, that is just a sign of how good they were, that we don't know who they are.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I know for me, as I'm still new to Bitcoin, I'm still like, a little over a year new. Um, when I first started learning about it, I'm like, what do you mean the creator just disappeared? That's ridiculous, And then of course, like, why would I trust that? And of course, the more that you learn, like, it's not about trusting the person, it's the network, it's the algorithm, it's the math, it's trust the math, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then learning about the the potential life risk that this person's faced, then it makes it a lot more clear, like, yeah, this makes sense to get out of Dodge and not be um, forward facing in this thing. And so it's hard for the mainstream, normies, like how, I was for half a century, not half a decade, you know, to get our head around, right? Because we're just like, no, 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 we trust the government and they have our interests at heart and the dollar's great and blah, blah, blah. And it's like we have to learn a whole new perspective and way of looking at money, at government, at social structures, at spiritual structures, and it's a really like, it's like everything crumbles when you start learning about Bitcoin, and it doesn't stop. Like, it's not like I got it, I understand the whole thing and I'm good, let's keep going. It's like every freaking day there's a whole new thread that gets started, like, oh, I got to learn this now about life and macroeconomics, and I didn't, all these things. It's like, whoa.
Exactly. Now you just reminded me how what you're talking about, how like your whole worldview kind of crumbles.
Yeah.
That's where Bitcoin reminds me of like a psychedelic experience,
Mhm.
where what you thought was real turns out not to be real. And that can be uncomfortable and shocking, and maybe not everyone's cup of tea. So when I first learned about Bitcoin, I wanted to tell everybody, like shout from the
I know.
mountaintops.
Woohoo!
And then the deeper I got into it, kind of the more selective I became. Not that it's not for everyone. It's definitely an open monetary network for everyone,
Mhm.
but not everyone is ready to have their worldview shattered, and I have to respect that position. That maybe, yes, the dollar is responsible for a lot of darkness and pain, and it's a system of privilege.
Yeah.
However, some people aren't ready to know uh, the degree to which they participate in this system, and the work that is required to step out of that system. And I just have to respect that, because it did shatter a lot of beliefs for me. But on the other side, I'm so grateful to see the truth.
It's really powerful, and you really nailed it there. It's like, it's not like Bitcoin is for anyone, but it's not for everyone. And same thing with psychedelics, and going through those ego death experiences, and going through the, like, whoa, everything I thought I knew is, subject to questioning in a whole new way. And it's terrifying for many people who really rely on, we all have different personality types, and we all have different motivational drivers. We all have different levels of comfort zone within our nervous systems. And some people really, really, really thrive in a very predictable environment. And some people, if they're presented with something that is outside of that, that kind of scope, that pathway, I don't want to say a narrow pathway, but just more of the comfort zone,
Right.
it really puts so much stress on them that they really can have breakdowns, like that they may not recover from necessarily, because they don't have the tools and the support system for going on to the next level of this journey, and so it's it's a powerful balance, but it's also a delicate balance, like to enter into Bitcoin or consciousness and psychedelics and expansion. It's very it's to be treated, in my opinion, with great reverence and with great
Yes.
respect. Um, and so, okay, so you brought up psychedelics, and so it sounds like you've had some experiences with that. Would you like to share, like,
Yes, in the
what?
past, in the past,
Uh-huh.
you know, I uh, I had some questions, and I, watched a podcast with Paul Stamets on
Mhm.
Joe Rogan, and I think it was like a 3 hour podcast, and he was talking about mushrooms, and I learned about mushrooms and like how they fortify the soil and help deliver nutrients to
Mhm.
roots. And you think about a tree and the roots go in the ground, and there's elder trees that like pass wisdom to younger trees. And then if the tree isn't doing so well, they'll send like nutrients. It's like a whole network. And the mushrooms like help with that. And they form their own networks. And it was just very interesting, the way that he viewed mushrooms as like sentient beings. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, do mushrooms have like information for me? And this was super new because, um, one of the questions they ask you to be a law enforcement officer is if you've ever tried psychedelics. And of course, you could lie and say no,
Mhm.
but a lot of people in that profession haven't. A lot of them are very like square, or what you would call it, goody two shoes. If they're not like going in there as criminals and
Yeah.
on a power trip. So it was, I was very much an adult when I tried, and I really approached it with reverence. I like attended some workshops, talked to a man that was like big in the field and like took notes. And wow. So I would say, um, so growing up, I would hear everyone's equal. When I had a journey on mushrooms, uh, I experienced the quality of everyone, and I'll tell you how that happened.
Mhm.
It was a very high dose, and it was. I started to experience like every kind of moment in my life, and it occurred to me that all the people that I met were important, even the strangers, and I felt how I made them feel. And
Mm.
that was just for a few seconds because it became like very overwhelming and too much. And so I just asked it to stop. But that was when I understood how and why everyone's equal, because we're all made of the same things.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest lesson, that I've gotten from mushrooms, is that the government doesn't make people equal. Mandates and laws don't make people equal. We are equal, and it's up to you to be able to see that. That's your responsibility. And the sooner you see that, the more that you can get out of your relationships and encounters with others.
Wow. Wow, that sounds really, really profound to, you know, you said you felt that you could feel how you made other people feel, and for a moment, and obviously that's a big feeling to experience, right? And then that we all are, I mean, we all, if you look at physics, we all come from the same stuff, which is
Yes,
energy.
yes,
And it's just like when you break everything down to that, And then you realize that we are a part of this infinite field of energy, and that we are all inextricably interconnected throughout infinity.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, whoa. I am you, you are me. I am this coffee cup. I am God. God is you. Bob is Fred, all this stuff. It's like, holy shit. It's really profound, and it can be overwhelming, I think, for some minds to try, because we want to package things to little nice compartmentalized explanations so that we can get on with our little day, right? But it's like,
Yes.
it's important to have people to support you. So let me ask you this. Did you have, so it sounds like you said, which I really respect, that you did some workshops and wanted to really learn about uh, these experiences prior to doing them. Did you have like any, uh, did you do it with a guide? Did you have guides afterward that supported you with integrating what you received, the information you received on your journeys?
I kind of did it. I did it by myself, and I kind of took a rough route. So I would say, like, my nature is, I'm very much like a warrior,
Mhm.
and so leaving law enforcement was a big change, and I didn't necessarily have a skill to transition to
Mm.
where I would be making the same type of money or have the same type of benefits. And so I just kind of had a few years of just trying to figuring things out and exploring my creativity because I like comedy. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to, learn stand up comedy. I'm going to perform. And so I had some years of just a lot of like free flowing. And I just took advantage of this digital world. So I, watched podcasts, read books, and then I just felt like some of my ancestry were mushrooms were a part of the culture.
Mm.
And so I just had this knowing that I would be okay and that I could handle it and I would be fine. And so, with that in mind, I had some very interesting adventures by myself.
That's amazing. What,
And
what,
wait, 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 and I don't
oh,
wanna
sorry, go ahead.
forget,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you are into music, so, uh, I think the mushrooms suggested a song. It was Michael Jackson's Earth Song, and
Ooh.
boy, what a listening experience, with mushrooms on board.
Okay, I have to admit, I don't know that song, and I know a lot of Michael Jackson, and I can't believe I don't know a Michael Jackson song called Earth Song. So,
Let
I'm gonna
let me do my research while you talk, so I wanna make sure I have the right name, but yes, it's about, like, the earth, and, yeah, I was, like, listening and crying and, like
Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna look it up. I have a bad memory with names too, so I might have it, and I might be like, "Oh, yeah, I know that song," but we'll put it in the show notes too for people so they can find it and check it out. I mean, isn't it profound? Okay, so, with psychedelic experiences, they talk about set and setting,
Mhm.
and, it is of the utmost importance that you have a proper set and setting, and music, in my opinion, obviously, is like part of the setting, and it really
Yes.
can, it can offer so much to the journey and the experience in so many ways, and what I find really profound, and I don't know about you, if you when you listen to this, Michael Jackson song after your journey, it kind of reactivates the experience a little bit. Do you find that for yourself?
I don't know, but you know what? When we get off of here, I'm gonna listen to it,
You're like,
and
"I
I
am
think
too."
you'll know. Yeah, yeah. I think you'll know it because it's very big and popular. He had like a nice music video,
Okay.
um, but yeah, just a hint, like a little bit, because as you know, music is vibration,
Yeah.
and even though I was by myself, I did have a safe setting, and I did have the right mindset. So I just feel like I believe this isn't my first life, and I just feel like it's the only life I'll be Trinity, but um I just felt like I personally had, this isn't, the first time I've interacted with these things, so I felt okay. But obviously, if someone has the apprehension or fear, you definitely want to approach it with a guide that you feel safe with. And the way that I did it is not necessarily the way that most people do it. But yeah, my mindset was great. The setting was peaceful, and just plants around me, and music, because I love music. And so it's a vibration, and it raises your vibration. And so yeah, I could see where listening to a song that you listen to during the journey could kind of get you back to that familiar place in vibration.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like a subconscious kind of thing. It's not like all of a sudden you start tripping again, but you're like, "Oh, right, there was that part," and it's really interesting. And so let me ask you this about um okay, because I want to touch on lots of stuff. So I want to touch on your stand-up comedy because that's really interesting, and brave because I tried that and I was like, "Oh my god, these people are geniuses. They have to stand up here and do all this." So I definitely want to go there, but I want to kind of circle back just for a moment and talk about, you said um you felt comfortable because your ancestry had used mushrooms before. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Right. So I was born in Missouri, and some of my heritage is like Osage, which are native to Missouri.
Okay.
And just from what I understand in some indigenous cultures, mushrooms are just part of like the journey of like growing up, and just like having like spiritual insights. So I felt like I would be okay. Like I felt kind of like comfort and safe. It's just hard to say exactly because some people have like different gifts, like clairvoyance or clair sentience or clairaudient. I just, some things I just know. And so like I have a knowing, and I'll know things, but in math you have to show your work. I can't show you my work. I just I got it from the ether somehow.
Yeah. It's interesting though, right? Because it's when let me ask you this, like, so do you get, because I can relate to that very much, and I can't show you my work too, but I definitely see things, and I can experience some different truths, or I don't know if they're not even premonitions, but there's just something that I can see or feel. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, is there anything in like your body and your physical body that you're like, yep, that's a yes? Or do you get any kind of signals or triggers that that validate your perception?
Yeah. So it's like a calm, like a peacefulness,
Mm,
and but I have to be calm to even experience it, if
mhm.
that makes sense. Because it
Yeah.
if I'm anxious, then I won't catch it. But if it's like it's just a calm, quiet um, answer, and it's not really all that exciting. But sometimes I've been known to like jokingly say something to somebody, like making a joke about them, but it's not. It's turned out to be true. Like I would joke like, oh, you're probably a gardener, and make some joke about that, and you're like, well, actually, I do garden, or and and so that's happened sometimes to me. But mostly, I just try to focus on what feels right, because we are vibrational beings, and for during my time in law enforcement, listening to that has kept me safe.
Mm,
Um, and also, I've been in situations that didn't seem safe, but because I have that internal alarm, I knew I would be okay, if that makes sense. Like I
Yeah.
stopped a guy once, and I had a partner that had a habit of asking people if they had any guns in the car. And so, you know, he was a hot shot. He was getting a lot of arrests. So I was like, okay, I'll ask people. So I stopped this guy for like a traffic violation. And I was like, do you have any guns in the car? And he was like, yeah. And he went to like go get it and show me. And I was like, no, don't show it to me. But I didn't feel like any sense of danger at all. Like the hairs didn't go up on the back of my neck. Like that's a real thing. And
Yeah.
so, as it turns out, he's a barber, and certain barbers that deal a lot of cash at the time, because I had a barber, they do have a gun because they leave the shop with a lot of money. And so I stopped asking that question. And, I just didn't feel like there was danger, even though someone was literally about to pull out a gun.
Right.
So
Wow. Wow. I mean, just the stories from your was it 6 years or 8 years in the
8 years.
8 years in the being a law enforcement officer? Wow, that's must have I can imagine, like, that's book worthy, like, you're and then the transformation of choosing to leave that, I mean, you could definitely write a book on this for sure, or, to me, like, I would love to hear your stories. Um,
Thank you.
wow, yeah, for sure, and, I think, when you said kind of that you have to be calm to receive the messages, right? Um, I always think about, like, that we are, obviously we're energetic and vibrational creatures, and that we're like transmitters of energy and vibration, and we're also receivers. We're like a radio, like a
Yeah.
walkie-talkie kind of almost. And and I I I think you're a lot younger than I am, but in the old days in cars, we used to have and they had them on their in your regular stereos too, but we used to have the dial, and if you wanted to like tune the radio to get like a certain radio station, you would turn your dial, right? And so if you're turning your dial really fast and furiously, like, you're going to miss all of the signal.
Mm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so it's like when you take time enough to slow down, slow down, slow down, then you're like, "Oh, cool. I can tune in to 98.5," or but like if you're just like doing this really fast, even though the signal is there, it's always there, you're going to miss it. And so
Yes.
that's,
I love that analogy, how you put that. That was great.
yeah, I'm the analogizer. Um, but it's true, and I think that's true for all of us. It's like once we and this is why I'm so part of my mission is to help people, cultivate their own unique daily practice, their daily inner peace and prosperity practice. And that means slowing down. That means
Mm,
pausing. That means taking whether it's 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour to tune into being present with this divine energy, the mystery, and make, allowing yourself to be in the wonder and the love of the universe, and knowing that like you have access to that infinite power. Like you said earlier, that, we're all the same, we're all equal, we're all made of the same stuff,
yes.
right? And so it's like turning, how do we become Jedi and warriors, like you said, and learn how to use the force for good in our own lives, and so that we can create a better planet for everybody and our children and our children's children. So having that daily, those that intentional practice each day, I has saved my life like beyond measure. Do you have any kind of daily practice that you tune into, whether it's journaling or meditating or just listening to a special song or anything? Do you do anything like that?
I I have things that I've done, but I haven't developed the discipline to do them daily. So, you know, I meditate, uh, I've done yoga, uh, you know, even running, but and journaling. But every day, I'm not there yet, but I would like to be there.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask? Because I'm doing market research right now when I ask you this question.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is an obstacle? Like, what's one of your obstacles from going from the like I want to do it but I'm not doing it yet. But here's where I want to be. Like, what do you think is the thing that's in your way of making that happen?
I'll tell you one thing, Bitcoin Twitter, you know, I wake up, I know I need to meditate first, but I'm like, what's happening? What's going on? What spaces is on? What? And before you know it, I started my day with that instead of, you know, aligning myself.
Oh
So
my God, that's hysterical. It is seriously like, I know it's like my new home since I've learned about Bitcoin. I'm like, I love all the Bitcoin Twitter people. I love hanging out there. And it's just like, it's always something fascinating is happening. You know what I mean? Oh man. Um, have you, how has being a Bitcoiner changed you and your relationships? Like, do you have like in meat suit life, do you have Bitcoiner friends like where you live and everything, or is it more online?
it's definitely online.
Okay.
So I feel like I can share this with you, and I haven't shared it with anyone yet. And I've been on 2 podcasts, but just the way yours is set up, it just leaves it, one to be very vulnerable in a good way.
Thank you.
Well, so my job right now, when I moved to New York, I got a job in retail, and it's very emotionally intensive.
Mm,
Um, and so, right when COVID happened, there was a lot of tension, a lot of changes, and I had like a panic attack at work where my
mm,
chest got tight, my back got tight, and I left work, and then I came home and I told my girlfriend, I said, "Hey, I got to go to the urgent care or something because my chest is really tight. I think I'm having like a heart attack or something." And she was like, "You need to call your therapist." And I'm like, "For what?" "I need to go to the doctor." And she's
right.
like, "No, you're having a panic attack." And I just like started crying because I'm like, "What? I'm having a panic attack?" Because I've heard about it and I literally thought those people were just like really soft. Like that was my thoughts. Like, okay, you have a panic. That's really cute. And I wouldn't even roll my eyes in front of them, just kind of like, okay, that's not real. And then to have one myself, I was just done because I've worked my whole life. I've been in tough situations. And you mean to tell me I'm having a panic attack at a retail store? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
And so I was off work for 6 months, which was a blessing, on medical leave. And I just had to take a break. And what I did in those 6 months, my home and the people that supported me, unbeknownst to them, because I didn't share this, was Bitcoin Twitter. And I
Mm,
learned about Bitcoin. So I read books, I listened to podcasts, I participated in spaces, and I just learned like a deep dive about Bitcoin. And so how it's changed me is I know like how new money is created. Like I understand the monetary system in a way that I never did before. And even though before I had read books by Susie Orman and read books like by Dave Ramsey, like I really tried to learn prior. And none of that made sense until I got into Austrian economics and how is new money created in the history of money, and that people always come up with some form of money, be it salt or something else, beads.
mhm.
And so now I have this understanding of money and the importance of it and kind of even how natural it is. I understand, like, what is capitalism, what is crony capitalism, socialism, communism. And I have a greater respect for money and even just the idea of money being energy and conserving my energy. And so,
Mm,
thanks to Bitcoin, I was able to just kind of like get out of that place of anxiety by way of distraction, and then just like talking with my therapist and just learning different techniques. And now, like, I'm a saver. Like, I transform from a consumer to a saver. And the reason I consumed, I think, even though I didn't have words, I couldn't say, "Oh, our money's, uh, deteriorating because of inflation." I wouldn't have never said that because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
But I guess I had an inner feeling of the money being worth less. And I had this urge, they would say you have a hole in your, like you act like the money's burning a hole in your pocket, like you have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And now that I have Bitcoin, I want to preserve, I want to save, I want to learn, I want to build. And that is what led me to even the idea of, you know, getting my commercial driver's license, because at the time Bitcoin was $60,000. And I'm like, okay, with the income I make now, it's going to be really hard for me to obtain a whole Bitcoin. How can I improve my income? And what is it that I really like doing that I can learn? And so I just saved my money, so I could put myself through trucking school.
It's amazing. Like, wow and wow. You said so many things there. So I want to first of all congratulate you for being vulnerable and sharing what you went through, because I know that it's not something that comes natural to a lot of us, especially if we're warriors and badasses and we roll our eyes in the past at people who are like, "Oh, really? A panic attack? Like, get over it." You know? And
Yeah,
it's as somebody who has exactly been in your shoes, um, to the point of like, I had an old roommate in, back in my 20s, and, she would go through bouts of depression, and she would go through these, these funks, and I was always like, "Oh, come on, let's get over it, da, 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 da," and I was so disassociated from her experience because I thought, like, that you could just snap your fingers and not feel that way, and I thought that maybe something was wrong with, like, her strength, but the reality is, like, whether it's having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, whether it's having a funk of a depression that it's hard to lift yourself up out of your with your bootstraps, we all are organisms. We are living creatures, and every living thing, everything on planet Earth has a breaking point given enough internal and external pressures.
right.
And what breaks you might not break me, and vice versa. And so when we can understand that, and when we can understand that from a state of, mental and spiritual and emotional health, it's one thing, like, you're like, "Oh, cool, if I put a lot of weight on my arm, my bone's gonna snap." Like, that's gonna happen, but, like, we don't give enough compassion to our inner, um, architecture. And and so thank you and congratulations for, taking time to take care of yourself. And, part of this mission that I'm on also is like, just I want to fucking obliterate shame and stigma around these 3 words, which are, "I need help," you know,
Mm,
and because when you are somebody who's really strong, if you're in a position of caregiving for others, or being in a position of power, running a multi-billion dollar organization, um, it doesn't, you have the story of like, "Nobody can see me weak," because that's not good, and it's like, I find the more people are vulnerable, the more powerful they become inside and out. Uh, so congrats, first of all. So
thank you.
yeah. And going through that for you, obviously Bitcoin Twitter is so powerful. And I can speak to what you said too. Like, my anxiety level has diminished so much during this understanding what Bitcoin is. Like, I feel more hopeful for the future. I feel stronger. I feel safer, for my kids' future, knowing that this exists. And it sounds kind of silly if you're not a Bitcoiner and you hear someone say that, but it's real. Like, there is some sense of like, oh, okay, this is going to be something that we can count on, for the
Yes,
future.
yes, and as you were talking, like, part of how I healed from like that place of anxiety, I literally, like, I'm not a good memer, but like I found the memers and I just kind of memed with them, even though my memes are terrible. Like I can tell you jokes, but my memes not that good.
Your meme game needs a little work, huh?
Yes, but the memers, like, they accepted me, and I just made memes and, made fun of people, and joked and, just kind of like transitioned into a place of like more truth because uh, this is gonna sound funny, but um I called because I actually follow like a psychic, like legit, he's a psychic. So I called the psychic. I'm like, what is happening? Like, this happened at work. And he's like, you're not being told the truth. And
Mm,
that is why I had a panic attack, because here I am in an environment where I'm not being told the truth, but I don't know that. And so my body just kind of let me know, hey, this is where we stop. You're gonna sit on the sidelines and you're gonna like gather yourself because this ride, it's over. And had I known I was having a panic attack, I literally would have tried to keep it a secret. I literally would have, just come home and been silent about it. The only reason that I gave it away is because I did not know.
mm.
And I always say that I only told on myself because I didn't know. And so, kind of like my not knowing exactly the symptoms and then revealing that is just like, oh, the gig is up. And now I'm being forced to take a break because I never would have done it on my own.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that speaks volumes to the receiver within you of knowing that the signal was off around you, obviously, and it was causing this like, "Rah." Um, and then also, I mean, I can relate, like, the hiding of the vulnerability is what we all do, and then it will build up at some point, right? And
Yes.
so, what a blessing that you didn't know the symptoms and you're just like, "Yeah, I'm having a heart attack. I better go to the the
Right, right.
hospital."
It is so silly now. It's like, yes, I'm having a heart attack and I was able to commute an hour and a half home.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. It's crazy. Did you ever used to watch The Sopranos?
No, I never seen it.
Oh my I love for I don't know. I guess it's because my dad, Fast Eddie, was in the mafia, when I grew up in Det outside of Detroit. But I'm really for some reason, I've always been drawn to, like, Godfather, Goodfellas, Scarface, or anything that's mafia, which is weird
Mhm.
because I'm so well, Sparkle Fairy. But Tony Soprano was like the mob boss, and he, of course, he's like Mr. Badass, gangster dude. And he started having panic attacks,
Oh.
and so then the whole show is based around, him and his, he's the central character and they always show him in his psychiatrist's office. It's hysterical, and you're just like and he loves ducks and little things, and then he goes and kills people,
Yeah. He's
It's
like,
just like
"These Vikings are getting to me."
right? So, it's just so funny, and it was just I loved the show, it was such a good show, but, um, holy cow. Well, okay, let me ask you, can we talk about your stand-up comedy? Like, this is
Yeah.
pretty it takes boobs, balls, whatever you wanna call it, to get up on stage and go do stand-up comedy. So, I have a lot of, appreciation and respect for stand-up comics. So, let's tell the audience about your experience.
Well, so, my mom did stand-up comedy, and I remember she opened for Cat Williams once.
No way, dude, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh my god, I
So
love Cat
she
Williams.
opened, back when he didn't have, because some comedians travel with their own openers. He didn't have an opener in Kansas City, and there was, like, this comedy club, and she got to open for him, and she, offended his audience. I think he was on, like, his Pimpin' tour, and, like, she right? She got on stage, and her first remark was, uh, "Y you ladies know that he's not a real pimp," suggesting that they were dressed like, um, you know, sex workers. Cause hey, I'm not judging anybody. But
Yeah,
anyway,
totally.
so my mom gave me advice like, don't ever offend the audience and, don't ever do this and do that. Like she's literally giving me real advice because she did it.
Wow.
And I remember watching her do stand up, and I was like, you, Valerie, like, I will never do that. She's crazy. Why am I here? She's going to kill me because I'm like so worried about her. And then I ended up taking like a Toastmasters
Uh-huh.
course,
Uh-huh.
and it's just speeches. And all of my speeches, I wanted them to be funny. And I was like, this is comedy. And so I just transitioned into doing stand up. And it's so exhilarating because literally, people would rather die than do public speaking.
Mhm.
But yeah, like if you're dead, yeah, you don't have to do anything. That doesn't even make sense to me.
I know.
At least if you do public speaking, you live to fight another day. So it's fun. um I think of Toxic Happy Hour as like my home club. So like back in
Yeah.
the
Your
day,
home
in
club.
the times of like Jerry Seinfeld and like Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy, in New York, they had a home club, which I've done like open mics there, where they would go there, practice their material, and be seen like that. No matter where they went around the world, they always had a home there. Well, the Toxic Happy Hour is my home club
Yeah.
because things aren't like that in New York anymore, and you kind of have to like schmooze and know people to get like real stage time and have like a TV credit. So I haven't given up on comedy. It's just that I'm going to fund my own club. And so I literally tell people with a straight face, because they're probably like, she is crazy. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to save in Bitcoin for like 10 years. And then I'm going to open my own comedy club, and I'm going to have like cannabis infused desserts and, food. And it's going to be like a whole experience. Like literally, I want like just because comedy is healing. Laughter is like a release.
Totally.
Relief. You're literally vibrating your body and you're just like letting go. And comedians pride themselves in looking out into the audience and just seeing all kinds of people. And yeah, like I love it. And it's adversarial. Like I use my powers for evil when I don't get on stage enough, meaning that if you get in an argument with me, like I'm gonna cut you with my words, and that is when my power is used for evil instead of good. So I do have to like occasionally get on stage and like release it in the right direction and not at my loved ones, because I'm quick, I'm sharp, and it hurts if you're in the wrong end of it. So I definitely have to keep that energy channeled for good.
Oh my gosh, I can so relate to that. I mean, holy cow. Well, so are you okay, let's talk about, are you gonna fuse trucking and your adventures on the road and maybe get like do a little Bitcoin comedy trucking tour, something like that? That would be fun.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, the possibilities. I mean, I'm very much open. My whole goal with trucking was to have a way to increase my income so I could save in more Bitcoin,
Mhm.
and then also just be free and not interact with people so much,
Mm,
or at least do it on my own terms and not like under like a facade of like pleasantry, even though I'm a pleasant person. But I just needed a way to have income because I'm not interested in Hollywood. I'm not interested in writing anything. I literally just want to do my own thing. And the best way to do that is to have money and fund yourself. So, I have a vision of like the ideal comedy club that supports comedians, that has awesome food and, delicious drinks, and the whole experience top to bottom. And I am patient. I have patience. Like I feel like it'll happen, and I don't mind waiting to do it the way that I want to do it. And in the meantime, I just make people laugh in person, or occasionally go to Toxic Happy Hour and just pop in with some off the wall comment, and it's fun.
I love it. Do you have like a dream location that if you could like, oh, this is where I'd love to set up shop if you could paint your dream picture?
I haven't decided yet. I mean, comedy, it can be everywhere. So
Yeah.
definitely, it doesn't matter. Because I've done shows before, and I literally like pick the venue as part of like the production. So like I go in a building, how does it feel? You know, is it dark? Like what are the tables like? So I could do it anywhere because it's literally something, an experience that I want to either create or find a building that speaks to me.
Oh, I love that. Well, and it feels like, I don't know. My brain always works in like, ooh, business. And I like thinking about building, experience. I love experiential opportunities for people to gather and have a sense of hope, possibility, wonder, freedom. And, when you said laughter is medicine, because it truly is, and you are vibrating, it's like you can't be a badass, like fake person when you're laughing hysterically and peeing your pants. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like you don't get to have that facade of like, I'm, blah, 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 because when you're laughing, you're like, "Wah!" So you have to be vulnerable to laugh, and
Yes.
I think it's so much fun. And, you said like, as a stand-up looking out in the audience and how profound it is for you to be there and be in, because it's a symbiotic relationship. Obviously, it's one thing to
Yes.
sit and do comedy and stare at a wall. It's another to do it and engage with your audience and dance with their vibrations. And when they're feeding back that fun to you, you're like, woohoo, okay, you here's the next one. you know
Yes. Exactly. And the thing is it's immediate feedback. So
Yeah.
so if the joke doesn't work, there's that silence and you have to kind of sit with that and take that feedback in. And so that's where the fear comes in for some people, but it's
Hmm.
also like exciting when you get those wins. The win is so exciting that it's worth those painful silences, and you just build on it, and you learn that it's okay. And I think, maybe a lot of other millennials are going through, multiple careers and many, many like incarnations. But I feel like all these different, work experiences will allow me, and the trucking experience will allow me to relate to audiences and talk about whatever and make fun of like so many situations in life. And so I'm sure that I'll have some funny experiences on the road. But in my comedy, I always made a habit of just talking about more so people and not necessarily my job, because I didn't want to be in a situation where if I changed jobs, I didn't have any material. So I notoriously would not joke about my job in any way, shape, or form.
Well, and it's like every time you move forward, it's like it's a blank palette. You can decide like, okay, now I'm going to talk about this chapter as, seeing the world. Now you said before we hit go live, you were saying that when you were younger about wanting to go see the world and you're like, oh, I'll just read a book about it or I'll read about it.
Yeah.
So and now you get to have like really in firsthand experiences of getting to go travel all over the place with that. I mean, that's so cool. I mean, what you said, I mean, I think you and I have a lot of, we have a lot of interesting similarities. And I think as a DJ too, like I've never played the same set twice ever. And
Wow.
I never plan my sets. I plan chunks of my sets because I'm like, okay, I think, I'm going to be playing at midnight and it's going to be at this kind of a festival or club or whatever. So, and then these are the DJs who are around me and they're going to be like really hard. And this one's going to be kind of soft and funky. So maybe I'll kind of do something in the middle. So I'll kind of plan like chunks of what I think the journey is going to look like, but I
Mhm.
never know exactly what's going to either come out of the record box or out of my, this gear that I'm using now, the digital stuff. But like exactly what you said, that instant feedback is so priceless. And it's like having sex, right? Like you're not in there, you're not going like, okay, I'm gonna do 3 pumps to the right, and then I'm gonna kind of move over here. And you don't do
Ah.
that. Right? You're like, well, I think we're gonna do a doggy style, but I don't know how long, and then all those things.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
But once you get that feedback with your partner, which your audience is your partner in
Yes.
this, you're like, oh, that didn't work. Okay. Okay. Next record. Go over here. Right. And it's just kind of like same thing with it. You're like, well, okay, I'm not going to, maybe I got to massage that one. Next time I'm going to tell this joke, and then but like when you get the big win, the big orgasm, the laughter, or the like, yeah, when people are dancing on the dance floor, then it's like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go more.
But then you can build on that. Like,
Yeah.
so would you say that you're in flow when you play your sets then?
Oh my God. I have goosebumps when you just said that. Yeah. It's fully flow, and there's definitely moments, especially when I get out of flow and I see people just kind of looking at me like, mm-mm. I get in my head a little bit and I'm like, uh-oh, and then when I stop overthinking it, and honestly, what I've learned over the years is when I pause and I ask God, spirit, universe, whatever you call it, but I call it God now. When I say, okay, please help me do the next thing right, and that's going to match, what these folks would like, it always works out. But
Yes.
if I'm up there trying to manhandle it and be all like, "Ugh, I think I know what's best," it's usually not usually, it can sometimes just be a little like too ego driven, or too, it's just not in that flow state. So it's like when I pause and I remember to pause and tune in, it seems like I get guided in the right direction, if
That
that makes sense.
pause. So
Yeah.
that pause is so important. So like, okay, okay. So in New York, there's like a slang term, and it's like pause. Like, okay, if you're talking to somebody and they're like saying something, you're like, pause. And but the pause, right? So that is like the field of infinite possibilities. The pause, the nothing is like the darkness, the that is God. It's the stuff that things are made of. And when we pause, especially when we're being creative, when we
Mhm.
have the bravery to like sit in that nothingness, because that is scary, right?
Yeah.
The unknown. But when we have the bravery to be there, then we can navigate to a place we've never been before. And that is wonderful and amazing. And that is what got me my license, because um,
Hmm.
I had gone into like my time, like my last long trucking session with the idea of I'm going to act like this is the test. I'm going to do everything perfect. I'm going to get everything right. And let me tell you, it was 3 hours of me screwing up. And my instructor was like, what happened? And so the next time I only had 1 hour. I only had
Ooh.
1 hour. And then the test would be the next day. And I meditated. I paused.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then I went in there, and hey, did the first thing go right? Nope. Did the second thing go right? Nope. But the third, and then it looked so much better. And then the next day was my test. And once again, I paused, I meditated. And I like to be like super early, like, 15 minutes early, whatever. But no, I was right on time because I paused. But because I paused and created that like place of like calm,
Mhm.
and secured my faith, and just kind of took the pressure off. Like, okay, if you don't pass today, you can take it again. But if you do pass today, that would be convenient. And in the maneuvers, because you have to show that you can control the truck. So you have to do like a parallel park, you have to do
My
something
gosh.
called an offset. And the truck is kind of like a puzzle piece, and you're kind of fitting it in. And let me tell you, it's pretty. Meaning, like, I didn't go in there and like do it smooth, but I went in there and I did not stop and I did not lose faith, and I remained calm. And wouldn't you know it, it just started to work out. And then by the end of the test, I was looking like I had been doing this a long time and it was easy. And then I just had to keep telling myself, hey, don't think that it's over. You do not relax until you get out of there and the instructor's out of the car. Don't celebrate yet. And so it was a wonderful experience, but all because I paused and meditated in the line.
Oh my gosh, I love hearing that story, and I love hearing that it worked out. I mean, just my mind is visualizing you like, so this is in a giant semi truck, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm just, oh my gosh, it's just, I used to I used to be a charter boat captain, and I used to sail and teach people sailing, and I used to captain a 46-foot sailboat, and trying to park those suckers sometimes, or put them, it's especially because there's no brakes, there's no it's kind of like you're and especially if the wind's blowing and all this crazy shit, and if you're trying to get in these little narrow docks, that if you're because it's one thing to go straight into a dock, it's a
Mhm.
little easier, but if you're trying to park between two boats, like parallel parking a big boat, especially if the wind's not in your favor, I mean, it's scary, dude. And because you're like, I don't want to crash and hurt anybody. I mean, I can't. I mean, I think your rigs are way bigger than my little sailboat. So holy cow. Um, but it's cool though, right? Like it's a powerful feeling. Like hell yeah, good for you.
Yeah, yeah, to be in flow, and I just want to make the point that like being aligned and being in flow, it doesn't necessarily look perfect. Like it's just about hanging in there and taking it like moment by moment, just like
Yeah.
you do when the crowd's looking at you like, mm-mm, and then you just go back in there. All right, I can turn this around. Just always knowing you can turn it around, and
Yeah.
I think that's what allowed me to believe in Bitcoin because even though Bitcoin is mathematically secure and it's based on like code and cryptography, like it's definitely a solid thing. There has to be a belief that a new monetary system is possible. There
Mm,
has to be a belief that things can change, and that is what allowed me to really kind of believe in Bitcoin in the sense of believe that humanity has an opportunity to kind of evolve to a monetary system where everyone's equal.
yeah. Wow. Oh, I love how you just pulled that in and brought it circled around to Bitcoin with this. Oh man. Like it is so powerful, and it keeps blowing my mind every day. I mean, and I'm just gonna speak one more thing on the pause part, and that is one of the biggest tools we can give ourselves, is the gift of a pause. Whether someone else says, "Hey, pause," like you said, like in New York, and or yourself. Um, but like I'm working on a book called "Snap Goes the Mommy," and it's about my journey of like falling apart with mental health and alcohol and all this shit, and and so a lot of people say, "Oh, she snapped, he snapped," and it's this horrible thing, and you fall apart, right? Well, I'm
Mhm.
like, well, let's flip it. How can we flip snapping, and what could be something positive that we can do with literally with our two fingers? And I'm like, what can we do with snap? And the first thing, the very first thing, and I was like, start now, allow a pause. Start now, allow pause. Start now, access peace. Start now, activate power. Start
Nice.
now, align purpose, all the things. So I started making up all these little snap things, these little snapisms. But it's like, it's that like if you can give yourself just that moment, that snap in the moment, because it's like people in an instant can snap and it can go sideways, as and go really horribly. But I'm
Yes.
like, well, why can't we choose with conscious awareness to snap and then turn it into something positive, like you just said? And so I think we're definitely aligned on that, and I think a lot of people are as well. They get that that's a power. It's a power tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to share like I had um an altered, state experience simply by this is for all the people who are sober. Simply by taking like 5 days of silence where
Mm.
I did not speak, and that um, really kind of reminded me of having a psychedelic experience. So I just want people to know there's different ways to have altered states. It could
Yeah.
be running, it could be meditation, it could be not speaking or tweeting or anything for 5 days or 3 days, or it could be like a 24-hour water fast. There's so many ways. And the only reason I say that is, now that I'm driving, I can't do the things that I used to do. because that is a big giant truck. It can be dangerous. And
Yeah.
so that's something I take really seriously. But there's so many ways to have the experience and the connection with that place of calm and peace. And just know that, sometimes it can feel a little scary and be uncomfortable. But if you can persist through that discomfort, on the other side is just something brand new.
I love that, and I love hearing how serious you take this, because clearly it is, like, it's a great tool to be, driving these wonderful big trucks, but obviously it could cause a lot of problems if you're not responsible, and I'm happy to hear that. In the psychedelic experience too, you're so right. I mean, there's like breath work, there's different things that people can do to create these altered states of consciousness that don't involve any external chemicals at all. Certainly some people, have those experiences as well, but it's, to me, plant, whether it's plant medicine, whether it's LSD, whether it's any of these other um, substances, they offer a doorway that you can go through and you can have different experiences, but it's not something like I certainly don't advocate like, let's go take drugs every day to go get there. That's not the intention of these experiences. It's
Right.
definitely like they are medicinal and they are to be revered and respected very much. Very much,
Absolutely.
you
And
know?
the time where and everyone's different, and I mentioned those ways because I want to be inclusive to everyone and their needs. But also I'll tell you this, there was a time where if you mentioned the idea of me speaking to a therapist, I'm not interested, I'm not gonna do it. Like, no way. And so for me, those plant medicines were very uh helpful for me because I was able to um, have the experience, and maybe instead of sitting and talking to somebody and having them dig through this, and this, and that, I could dance, or I could feel a sense of calm, or I could go be in nature. And that was like super healing. And that is exactly what I needed at the moment. And I don't think speaking to someone was appropriate for me at that time.
Yeah, wow. And good for knowing yourself and honoring like what can work for you and tuning into that. And there is for everybody listening, like there is no right or wrong or one way to approach your own individual uh, healing, your own individual transformation. And, again, what works for one of us isn't necessarily going to be the tools and experience that works for another. And so it's our duty as individuals and sovereign individuals is to know thyself. And I always say, in this book that I'm writing, I go through a series of um, tools and things, but I tell people it's like getting your me HD, like understanding yourself and knowing thyself is so important. And because we are in this fiat system and we are told like behave a certain way, look a certain way, think a certain way, this is what success is, all these things and that are maybe not our own interpersonal truth, but because we're told these things and then we desire the security of fitting in socially so that we don't, it's a survival mechanism to want to be accepted socially.
Right.
Um, we think like, oh, well, these people in a position of power, or these people who have more money, or these people who have more status are saying all these things. So maybe they're right. And I guess I should follow because I'm only 15 or I'm 20 or I'm young. And what do I know? And so you get sculpted into the image that isn't actually your own unique divine truth, and your own um, authentic version of yourself. And so that's why a lot of people have midlife crises and crises. Um, and so I'm hoping that, by having these conversations with people like you and lots of other folks, it's like, you know, how do we tune into our own divine truth, our own version of ourselves, and it takes courage, and it takes practice. The idea, look, it's funny because you said, that you would never have thought of yourself as someone who wanted to go see a therapist or a counselor.
Right.
Um, or a psychologist, whatever. I use this analogy when I work with clients and when I try to help people raise their hand and say I need help. You could be the best brain surgeon in the universe. Best, but you should not give yourself brain surgery. Don't do it. Don't try. Okay. Don't do it. Okay. Sometimes you need to have an external person who's been there, done that, who might have some more tools because you're not qualified to give yourself brain surgery, no matter how great you think you are. You are qualified to keep your brain health intact, but you should not do surgery on yourself. So I don't know. It's kind of my
I like
nerdy.
that. I never thought of it like that, but you're right.
And it's humble, right? Because like you can be a badass, surgeon or brain surgeon or whatever, but don't attempt this alone. So yeah.
And the thing is with that we're not alone.
Yeah.
So once once when I was at the time I was eating raw foods and I was like reading daily, and it was just like a nice break when I first left law enforcement. And I was like changing a lot. And I remember thinking, I feel so alone because I don't think
Mm,
anyone understands. And
right.
then something of, a voice said to me, you have the trees. And I remember thinking, who cares about the trees? But now, like, I understand, like, we're never alone. And as long as there's life, you have company. And yeah, like, uh, a tree is not a person, but literally, if you're alone, you could be, comforted maybe sitting under a tree, you know.
Yeah, and then tapping in, like, I don't know about you, but I know when I tune in with nature, anytime if I'm outside, I just somehow it goes into that, like you were talking about uh, the mushroom network, the mycelium network and everything. It's like you get tapped into the infinity of life. I don't know. That's how it shows up for me when I'm sitting with, and then I'm like, of course I'm not alone. I'm part of this whole thing.
Exactly.
But our
Exactly.
minds, our egos feel that we're misunderstood, that that's one of the it's a very difficult feeling. And I know and this is also part of my hope in, certainly when people start making the transition from fiat to Bitcoin and fiat mindset to Bitcoin mindset and consciousness, there's going to be a lot of that ego death going on. And there's going to be a lot of disruption in um, relationships. There's disruption in, how you operate on a daily basis. And so feeling that sense of like, nobody gets me it's intimidating because, again, circling back to the survival instinct of being a part of a tribe, being a part of a social network, we rely on that. We're social creatures as humans. And um, so I'm hoping that we can have those conversations and open, the welcome arms for folks who are going to they will experience that, they
Yes.
will be going through that. And I can speak firsthand, like a lot of my relationships are, I'm so excited for all the wonderful new relationships I'm getting the opportunity to have, like with you and all these other beautiful Bitcoiners. But it's also like my past life folks,
Yes.
including my kids and my ex and all these different folks who I love and will always be a part of my life. They don't understand me and they think I'm insane.
Aw.
But I'm like, no, I'm really not. I promise. It's just going to take you a little time. And when you're ready, you'll get it. But, we'll be here. That's
Exactly. And I'm happy that you started this podcast. And, I'm just
thanks.
happy with all the podcasters that put themselves out there. And, I'm an introvert and I plan on, seeing Bitcoiners in real life. And I guess,
See?
yeah, exactly. Yes. But what happened to me when we started like doing Zoom and doing some work from home, it was very it became clear to me how much of myself that I gave away digitally. I used to
Mm,
have an Instagram and I would do Instagram stories all the time and I would just share, share, share. And I couldn't be in an experience just with the experience without uploading some kind of like video or whatever, whatever. And so I have stopped that. And so, being in law enforcement, you're basically an employee of the state, that record is forever. I'm not, in hiding. But for me, having an avatar online that's not me helps me to separate, okay, this is online, it's not my real life. And it also gives me greater respect and appreciation when I do see people in person. And I hope they appreciate me more, because it's like, gathering together and being in the same space time is a gift, and it's a wonderful experience.
Oh, I highly agree, and especially for us, this whole new world of, like, people having these avatars and these NIMS in the Bitcoin world it's new to me because every other the old world is all like, "Okay, here we go. We're all just kind of front-facing meat suit kind of people." And so, I have a whole new appreciation for people, um in their privacy and respecting that, and certainly, like, it's a different way of kind of engaging, and when we do get to see each other in person, like, I got to go to the Beef Initiative conference this last weekend, which was awesome in Colorado. Yay, Texas Slim and, Jason Rick. Um, but then I think of all these other cool events that are coming up, for Bitcoiners, like Pacific Bitcoin Conference is
Yeah.
coming up, Big Block Boom is coming up,
Yes.
Nashville Bitcoiners is coming up. We've got another, Slim's doing another thing in Atlanta for ranchers, and the El Salvador conference is coming up, which I get to speak at. What the heck? And
Wow, congratulations.
I know, I'm like, holy shit. Like, I just was like, I gonna start getting my courage up and putting my name in the hat, and most likely get rejected for a while until I can, show some credibility. But I'm like, I want to talk about, meditation and music and mindfulness and mental health for Bitcoiners, and this
Absolutely.
and it's important, I think. And then, of course, I'm like, I can DJ too if you have some parties. Uh,
Yes.
but I feel like the magic that is there when you get, and obviously Bitcoin conference, hello. And then the Oslo Freedom Forum that Alex Gladstein does is wonderful. Meeting people in person is just like, oh wow, like we feel like we're connected so deeply on this world in Bitcoin, but when you meet people in person, it's just like, all right, we're lifers, pinky swear. It's so cool, and it's like, yay, they're real, they're not just digital.
I can't wait. What I would do a lot in the fiat world, and when I had that mindset, it was a lot of like, okay, faking it till you make it. And
Mhm.
so now my new mind frame is literally like, I want to secure, my portion of the Bitcoin. And then once I do that, then I will reward myself by meeting all these wonderful people in person. That's just me and how I'm motivated. Because if I go to conferences and things like that before, I just know me. I have to give myself, a reward
Mhm.
that'll make me work harder, because I see everybody having so much fun and talking about how wonderful it was to meet in real life. And I so want to be there. And I'm just like, Trinity, meet your goals, and then you can go and just even expand on your experience. Cause I know it's going to be great to meet people in person.
It totally is, and you just demonstrated the, like, know thyself, me HD. You're kinda like, "This is my carrot, and I know how to put a carrot in front of myself so that I can get, this part of my life, rocking and rolling over here, so good job on that."
Thank you.
Um, it's important, right? I call myself a love hacker, and it's just kind of like, okay, how can I, hack more love into my life, and what works, what doesn't, and what are my drivers, and what's gonna help me accelerate myself forward, and put in that, the proof of work, as we all say as Bitcoiners. And it's important to know thyself and know what drives us, and so good for you for knowing yourself there. I love it. It's and we're coming up on an hour and a half, so I don't want to take up too much more of your busy day. When do you get to start your traveling and your journeys? Like, what's going on how are we going to get to see you on the road? Please come to Colorado and visit me.
I have had Colorado on my mind ever since you all started with cannabis, and then I believe mushrooms are legal there too, right? And so I've been like, Colorado, I love you. Like, of course, I've wanted to come there, and like, I definitely want to do a comedy show where we have, like micro doses of mushrooms like an hour before, and yeah, like, clearly. Um, but I will probably hit the road in a couple of weeks. Like, it's coming at me fast, and I'm super excited. And maybe I'll write about my journeys, because I love writing, and I should like give it more attention. And I do enjoy reading other people's writing, and interesting things happen to me whether I want it or not. So, but yeah, it'll be a couple of weeks, and it's really um, it's been hard to believe, because it just didn't seem. I remember when I was leaving the house for my test, I was like, God, I need a miracle. Miracles happen, and I need a miracle. And in the moment, when things didn't seem like they were working, like I said before, I just remained calm, and I
Mhm.
had faith, and I just kept trying. And I just want to say that to anybody out there: remain calm, have
Mm.
faith, and just keep trying, and it's going to work out. And that's what happened for me when I did a maneuver and it was too far to the right, and then I started again and it was too far to the left, and I started again, and I took a deep breath, and it was just right. And that's just, we're here having these experiences, and every mistake can be a lesson and an opportunity to build on.
Totally, and I think the more, we remember that, the best lessons come from our mistakes, not necessarily from our successes, and so, the gifts get, "Yay, I'm successful," but, like, there's a long road of mistakes that get us to where we are in life, and so don't be afraid to, like, take chances and go for your dreams, and yes, you're gonna fall down, and yes, it's gonna be prickly sometimes, and yes, you might get rejected, and, yes, you might even get redirected into a new dream, but, like, never give up. Never, ever, ever give up, man. It's like this world is so beautiful and wonderful, and there's so many of us out there that wanna help each other out, so reach out, don't give up, and, I mean, I can't wait to see you on the road, Trinity, and, like, I wanna do like Sid the biker?
Oh, who's traveling on a motorcycle and going to all these Bitcoin meetups?
Exactly, that's what I'm kinda wondering for you. I'm like, it'd be kind of fun to see, like, and I don't know if you wanna, show up in person and stuff, so it's, whatever works for your flow, but it could just be sort of kind of a fun little, like, "Okay, yay, Trinity is in, Chicago or Dallas," or whatever. It'd be fun just to hear your adventures on the road and,
Yes,
what.
no, absolutely. As soon as I meet my goals, then I can show up in person and party with everybody. Because I like, literally, I love um, talking to people, and I definitely see a life where I can travel on the road and make people laugh. And
Yeah.
so all I have to do is secure a nice foundation for that.
Well, it's happening as we speak. Yay. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so honored to know you, and I'm so grateful that you took so much time to come and share your stories and your laughter and joy and hope on the show. It's really inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And, thank you for, being a part of this and showing people, you know, the Bitcoin piece in music. We need more of it.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe we can do like a again, my brain always works in like, how can we make something cool happen? I'm like, maybe we can do, if when you come to Colorado, if you give me at least a few weeks notice, a month would be best at least. But wouldn't it be fun if we did like a comedy show and some and dance party afterwards or something? Maybe
Oh,
we can,
absolutely. It would be fun. Yeah.
maybe we can create something fun like that together. And then, of course, we have to teach people how to use Bitcoin, and then we'll teach them, like, get the Moon wallet, and you can, like,
Oh, yeah. So,
and do something fun like that together. I would love
yes,
that.
I forgot to say, I will only do comedy for Bitcoin.
Yes.
Yeah, they need to know. That's the only way I'm telling jokes from now on.
I love it. Oh my god. I know. I was like, "We'll DJ for Bitcoin. Let's go." Um, we'll tell jokes for Bitcoin. I
Yep.
love it, love it, love it. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again so much. So, everybody can find you if they wanna come support you on Twitter um, at meta, META underscore Trinity, Trinity on Twitter. Is there anywhere else that they should follow you, or is this the best place for folks to support you and follow your journeys?
This is the best place. I have to keep it simple.
Cool. I'm so, yeah, I look at all these channels that we're all on, whether it's, the telegrams and all of the others, and then you've got all the social media. I'm like, you have to have like 10 brains to like keep up with everything.
Exactly.
It's so much, man. Um, but for everybody else also listening, my name's DJ Valerie Beloved. You can follow me on Twitter too. You can get the show notes, and I'm gonna put in the Earth Song. It is called Earth Song by Michael Jackson. I'll put that in, and then I'll also put the rest of the show notes up at djvaleriebeloved.com. And then, if you guys feel inclined, there's this podcasting 2.0 app you can follow on Breeze or Fountain.fm. And you can go there and you can follow your favorite podcasters and content producers. And if you like them, you can stream some sats, which, sats are like kind of like cents are to dollars. They're like, micro units of a Bitcoin. And so it's a cool way to kind of do value for value and peer to peer supporting of your favorite producers. And man, there are so many great content producers out there. But most importantly, you have to go follow Meta underscore Trinity on Twitter and make sure that you guys tell her, hey, and congrats on everything that you're doing. And I'm so grateful that you took all this time to share your love with the Bitcoin Peace and Music Love Tribe. Woohoo!
Thank you so much. It's been a blast.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everybody, let's take a big inhale together, and we will pause. We will snap and start now. Allow a pause in this moment. Inhale. Exhale. You can do that throughout the whole day, and you can redirect your day. If you're having a poopy day, you can turn it into a sparkly day in a snap. Yay. All right, everybody. Peace, love, and aloha. And thanks again, Trinity, for spending all this time with us. May you be blessed, and may your journeys be filled with love and light and wonder. Yay.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Aloha. Thanks again for tuning in to Bitcoin Peace and Music. I'm your host, DJ Valerie Beloved. Aloha.